Ha! We did it, I think, you guys. So let's just go ahead and go live here. There we go. And let's go live here. I think.
I wish we could hear them.
Yeah,
sometime.
perfect stream.
All right.
All right, it should be there.
Excellent.
I think so.
I think you're amazing for figuring this out.
I don't know.
I wouldn't have been able to do it.
Let's see. I think, yes. And can you hear us?
Hey, can everybody hear us?
I think so. And let's see if it's up. Look at that. Look, there's our YouTube feed right there.
Fantastic.
Can you hear us, everybody?
Persistence pays off.
I guess so. Brittany saw me behind the scenes.
She was cartwheeling. She was twisting and turning and trying to figure it out, and we got it.
You guys.
You got it.
Well, we got it. We want to thank you so much for your patience. You know, I don't know. I think what happens with everything is that I don't know. Settings just change. I don't know.
Updates, to certain things and not others.
I don't know, but I'm going to just make sure. Yes. So again, you guys, thank you so much for sticking with us.
Yes.
So we're going to do this whole project. You're just going to have to buckle in.
That's right.
Sit down and whoop it up with us.
That's right.
So I am going to, go here to all live chat so I can see everybody's chat. Perfect. So, hey, Brittany.
Hi, Kate.
Hey.
Hi.
So let's go back and show you guys. This is the project that we are doing today, and I am super excited that you're here doing this.
I'm really excited about this project. It's been a little project in the making, and the beauty of it is not all one necklace. It is actually 5 separate pieces that can be layered. These are layered macrame necklaces that contain a Bollywood style finish that was so successful with the bracelets that the Bollywood bracelets that we had published a few years back. So, and the beauty of this project is, I think, I don't know what has been repeated, but I'm just going to go ahead and start fresh.
Yeah, start fresh. And so I also wanted to mention, Brittany, today, and I'm going to put this on us here real quick. Today is the anniversary of our 3rd year broadcasting with you guys live.
That's amazing.
And I know that sometimes it's a little bit of a rocky road, but
it's free, beautiful instructions.
It is. And I feel like you guys are learning along with me. Brittany walked in this morning and she saw all of this that is going on. So, you can teach an old dog new tricks.
Oh.
And I'm learning this broadcasting literally on the fly.
You know a lot. I mean, it's a beautiful setup. I would not be able to troubleshoot this. If it was just me doing this, everybody would be hosed.
Well, I think we are going to have a great time today. So I'm going to jump over again with this stream. You can see here we are today, Beadshop Live, and it's your Bollywood necklace with you, Brittany. And again, as I said, we've got the materials. If you jump over to beadshop.com and you check out all of our projects under the Beadshop Live what do I want to say? Project. You'll see this will come up.
This will come up. And there is a companion little handout.
There is. And I'm going to go over to the materials over there, Britt. Why don't you show everybody? You did that really great handout for everybody. And so talk a little bit about the handout. What were you thinking, Brittany? Brittany Ketchum.
So this is a project that I took in several different directions, and the handout is not so much a standalone. It's a companion to this Facebook Live. I wanted to really cover the different techniques that are used in this necklace. And here we have it called the layered macrame necklace because each one is a separate piece. And I don't go over the specific designs, but I do cover the flat knot, how to incorporate beads into the flat knot if you want to make it Bollywood style. I do cover how to do a spiral knot, and today we'll talk about how to make these beautiful transitions from one color to the next.
And I feel like the spiral knot is a knot that we don't use enough.
Oh, it's fabulous.
You know what I mean? It is fabulous.
It is fabulous, and the trick with Bollywood necklaces, or these layered macrame necklaces, is they incorporate a flat knot and a spiral knot. They both are essential for the proper draping of the piece.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just a 4-page little companion handout that I feel like will be helpful.
And you'll find that I'll find that in the project. You'll be able to download it with your on the project page, and then you'll also be able to to store it with your handouts and everything. So I think it's good, and it looks like Geeta just put the collection in, and she's also put the link to the thing. So again, thanks you guys. Sorry about we had a little bit of an issue earlier, but we're all on. That's streaming. We're streaming at a good rate, so hang in there and refresh your feed if you're having any issues. Okay, that's great.
Perfect.
So you can see the materials that are sitting over here. And you, Brittany, I know, and I'm gonna come over to this piece so you guys can see it. But you can see the really Karen did a wonderful job with our photo that's online, and the products that you chose, I think you were kind of in a purple. You've been doing this purple run.
I have. I've been feeling purple. Just kind of, I don't know why exactly. Maybe it's healing.
Mm-hmm.
Things have been kind of
crazy out here.
Kind of crazy out
here. I know.
Here.
We're so glad you're here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah.
I'm really, really happy to be here. With the fires and everything, it's just been a little bit hectic. So I feel comfort when I see the color purple.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so you have over there under the camera there, you chose a variety of the Chinese knotting cords. And so you used mainly the 5, is that right?
I used actually all of them.
Okay.
I did use the 5 and the 8 as my base cords.
Mm-hmm.
I did use the 4 as my base cords in this one, like in a more of a slender piece.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend, if you're going to get Chinese knotting cord, get it in all 3 sizes.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nothing worse than when you want to incorporate some kind of a knot and you want it to be more petite or you want it to be a little bit more chunky, just get all 3. And I've made all of these pieces were made from size we did Geisha and boysenberry, and I got,
and that's what you're holding
and that's what I'm
right
holding right now. So this is the Geisha in the 4, the 5 and the 8, and the boysenberry in the 5 and the 8. I don't know why I didn't grab the 4, but I think I didn't need it.
Right.
I didn't need it.
And then you chose some of our newest drops.
Yes.
You chose on some of our older drops.
Some old and some new.
And it's those faceted drops that are, and I know that you love vintage beads as much as I do.
Oh, yes.
And so I know when we were talking about this project, you were like, Kate, just give me those vintage. I just want to do those. I just want to use those.
I love them.
Yeah.
I love them. They've got so much dimension to them. And they come in a package of 6, which is wonderful. I used 5 in my
in your design.
In my designs. I used 1 as a focal piece, and then I used 2 as like kind of tassel endings.
And here. I'm just going to switch the camera around here just real quick so you guys can see. See how Brittany used, it's that drop that's there that she, did you wire? No, it's with the thread.
No, it's with the thread.
You're so terribly clever.
I started with the center on this one, and I brought 2 pieces. I want to say it's the 5. So I brought the 2 ends through the bottom. I obviously let's see, it looks like just 1. Maybe I just did just 1. I do use a Yeah, that's exactly what I
Mhm.
did. So I used a little 8/0 seed bead to
Mhm.
as a bead stopper, and
Mhm.
I kind of really dug the way that it looked when it
Yeah.
was just, and I brought it through, so I had my two tails coming through this way, and then when I set it up on the board, and you know, with this macrame
Mhm.
board, it's wonderful. I
Oh, and so that was your beginning.
That was my
Very
beginning.
clever. And we're going to talk about this again in a second, but I also wanted to show you guys how she used them on the back of the tassels, the dangles there.
Yes.
So let's go back to the tools and material, or the materials, I guess, just real quick. You use the Venetian drops,
I did use the
which
Venetian
are there,
drops,
which are
are
great.
here.
And the rondelles, and you used actually two strands
I used
of those.
two strands
Mhm.
of these.
Mm-hmm.
I just love I love the fullness of
Mhm.
two strands. You can switch it up if you
Mhm.
like. And then I used these little drops. They are the
Those check drops.
yes,
Mhm.
yes,
And the Venetian mix.
in the Venetian mix, because there was an equal number of gold, kind of a light orchid, and then a dark
Yeah.
heather. Yeah, it was. I
So
loved
good.
that.
And so this morning, and I'm going to put this back to this list here. This morning, as I like to do as I'm walking through fulfillment, I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull some more some more threads, because we have, if you go to the website and you go online, you'll see that there's a recipe as well.
Yes.
So I followed your recipe.
Oh, good.
And I just pulled some alternate colorways. So pardon me, if purple isn't your gig, which I can't imagine it isn't, but so I pulled something a little bit more of a fall palette. So I pulled the Williamsburg, the Garnet, the Golden Toffee, the Spring Leaf, and the Silver Lining. Silver Lining is one of our newer ones.
That's
that we've
gorgeous.
had, and I really love them. And so then, when we were talking charms, you wanted to use every single charm we had, I think.
I pretty
Right?
much did. I
I'm
left
gonna go back
here.
over here.
Yeah, I left here with just a couple.
Mhm.
And I really felt like the layering of the charms kind of told a story.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the way this little delicate Hamza.
Oh, let me show that one.
Hamza charm.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, I can probably
Look at you move that camera. Yes. Look at that. That looks great.
Okay.
And so that little delicate Hamza that you chose, I didn't choose anything quite as delicate. What I chose, and I'm going to go back over here, and just so people get an idea, and then we'll move on to how to. But you can see that little grouping of charms over there. Buddha amulet in that green. Now that green, that patina is so, I feel like I kind of forget about those guys.
Oh, so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I love them.
And look at how they just like, and when you put other charms next to them.
Yeah, I just wanted like the leaf, the two feathers, that willow leaf, and then the crossed arrows. I don't know, the crossed arrows is one of my favorite.
I love it.
And then I pulled the jade Picasso drops. And you know what I didn't pull? I didn't pull the faceted drops. I pulled instead spindle beads.
I love those.
And I pulled the spindle beads in the vintage Picasso stone. At least I think I did. I might have pulled them, and that might be a different colorway. I thought I pulled vintage Picasso stone, but I'll check it and let you guys know. But any of those spindle beads will work as well, in the same way that faceted drop works.
Absolutely. Just a straight drilled, you know, that faceted drop just like captures the light so beautifully. And it accommodates the thickness of one passing of the 0.8, and it accommodates everything smaller.
Smaller than that.
So that's really great.
And then the last thing that I used was the stone mix in the rondelles. And then I just chose, you can choose any 8/0. You just chose one single 8/0, which I loved. So I chose the matte patina.
Yeah, keeps it simple.
Keeps it simple. It looks really nice.
And cohesive. I found that these gold beads, I used them in so many different things after this.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just the silver lined.
That silver line gold AB.
Just beautiful.
Yeah. And you can see I have up on the screen right now kind of all 5 of the necklaces layered. Now, each of these perfectly sit on their own, right,
They
Britt?
do.
Mhm.
They do. I'm actually wearing one right now. The one that has the lotus.
Right, the lotus guy.
And it's nice and balanced, and it is adjustable. All of these are adjustable so that you can change the way that they're layered. The real consistency is the Bollywood style closure.
Right.
But these are fantastic gifts to give away. They are standalone. I love, slightly more petite and very simplistic jewelry. So, this would be something that I would give somebody as a gift. And then, this kind of reminds me of like a tassel, like a 1920s style tassel.
And this is where you use the 5mm rondelles, right?
It is, yes. And I used, so there's 2 strands. So this one half is 1 strand. And then I finished it off here with a spiral knot. And then as you can, and I can jump in and
let's just start.
Let's start creating.
Let's do it. And that Bollywood closure that you're referring to, Brittany, you want to hold it up kind of close to the camera so people can kind of see if they're not familiar with it. There you go, and you can see. You're right. You can see there too. But that's that classic closure, and I grabbed like a big wad of the Bollywood bracelets, as you guys know. That's what we use for that, and it works beautifully with the necklace.
It does, and it's it's wonderful. It's comfortable, and you can even get kind of funky and adorn the ends of these even more. So it kind of creates a counterbalance. I also used something I did that was kind of different this time, is I implemented a spiral knot.
That spiral Bollywood closure just looks really great.
Oh, thank you. I really like it, and it does.
There we go.
It does kind of function really, really nicely because when I glued it, I mean, it's just one straight stitch. I didn't go over it again. I glued right on the edges here of the knots, and you're gonna need hypo cement for this. And one of the concerns that's gonna come up over and over again is it dyes my thread.
Right, it darkens it a little bit.
It darkens it a little bit, but if you keep it consistent, and I just stuck to the edge here, you hardly notice it. And then here,
you practice good glue management.
Yeah. You just, you kind of integrate it into the design.
So so the cool thing about this is that it incorporates so many of your kind of classic Bollywood stitches, right?
Yes.
So let's just start. I love the way, and I really want you to share with everybody how you started this, because it really is ingenious. If you'll notice, you guys, how this clasp, the Buddha, the resting Buddha, the loop, let's grab it real quick we can see it. That resting Buddha has the loop that's facing forward, right?
That's correct.
And you used it in such an ingenious way.
Oh, well, thank you. This is this is actually covered in the last page of the handout right here. So this talks about, if you have a normal loop that just, you can just slide the strand through, that's wonderful. But what we did here with this resting Buddha, and also with the lotus, actually the lotus, it looks like I started just right. Yeah, I did a lark's head knot, or it's also called a double half hitch knot, through this loop this is actually 2 separate base cords running this way. But the one thing that was consistent was I start with my pendant.
And I'm going to get a little tighter here so everyone can see that.
I start with my pendant, and then I work my way out towards the edges. So I can just start ahead, go ahead and start jumping into it.
Yeah, let's just start this one.
Yeah, I'm going to show this. I also want to kind of touch on this technique, how to incorporate these drops so that they lay correctly. Because there is a little bit of a trick to adorning spiral knots so that your briolets lay in one direction and don't go all over the place.
And I feel like and I love the way the spiral knot looks. I feel like sometimes when it's fiddly to kind of tie it and stuff, it kind of holds me back from using it. Right.
And this is, and that's one of the things that I feel like once you get that, and once you kind of understand how the knots lay and how you get into a little bit of a rhythm, you can anticipate where that drop is going to lay. Once you tighten the knot, it makes all the difference.
All the difference in the world. Well, let's jump in.
Let's
start it.
I'm going to focus on these two pieces here. And I'll probably make a piece that incorporates both. So
we're going to kind of do a mishmash here.
Yes.
And so I'm going to actually, you find this place where you like, and I'm going to tighten up the camera. We'll go just a little bit tighter so everybody can see what you're doing. How does that whoops, that was a little too tight, I think. Let me come out just a little bit. There we go. I think that's a pretty good view right there.
Awesome. So I can go ahead and use the Resting Buddha, since that's the charm that is featured on the handout. I do love that one. And I am going to use, as my base chords here, I actually used the 0.8, which is thicker, but you can use the 5. Let's see, I'll probably pull
and here's this, you've got the 8
perfect.
right here.
I've got the 8 right here. So one trick to measuring, and actually, can you show our faces one more time?
Sure, I'm right here. Let's do this.
Okay.
Here we are.
Hi.
Here we are.
Hi. So here's the trick to measuring. Okay. So I have, as you can see on this necklace here, there's 2 strands, and so I want to...
I'm going to hold it up.
Yeah. I like to have 2 strands as my base chords. It's not always the case, but for this one I will.
And you guys can see, I'll put it really close so you guys can see. There's the two chords right there.
2 base chord strands. So take your cord and measure around the widest part of your head.
Oh, because it has to
slide
over your head, right?
You can make it longer from there, but it needs to be the minimum length that your base chord needs to be, and that one's doubled over, so I'll have to double this length.
Twice.
It has to be able to fit around your noggin.
Right.
So, and then I add 2 to 4 inches on either side. Because I want to be able to adorn those beads at the ends, and I also want to be able to tie knots.
And you can't add thread, but you can always take it away.
That's correct. Right? That's correct. I mean, you can add thread,
right? But
it's a mess.
Let's just say,
yes,
exactly. Yeah, great.
So I'm gonna just kind of eyeball it here. So taking this, I'm gonna double. I'm gonna double that length.
You can lean in toward, it's hard to tell with the thing. There you go. It's there. Look at that. Leaning in.
Lean into it.
Lean in. And then you're going to cut it.
I'm going to cut it. Oh, wait.
And then I'll go back to, you want me to go back to our little, there we go.
And what I'll do actually is I'm going to just make this, I'm going to use this as a single, as a single base chord. But yeah, you could double it. You could bring it through. And then what I've done here, and we're going to tighten this up just a bit.
And so if you were doubling this up, Brittany, you would just,
I would do two chords. Yeah, I would do 2 chords. For this particular pendant, I would. If I was using like this cute little, I think it's called the Asana charm, I would just simply bring it through. But on this one, so the trick is you want to make a little loop at your halfway point, and you're going to go through the loop.
And this Buddha, what I like about it is this charm is 2-sided.
It is 2-sided, which is super helpful. That little loop that you've made.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to move that down to you, but sorry, my arm got in the way, you guys.
We're going to bring those tails through that loop, just like that, and tighten.
Nice. And that's your lark's head.
That is, and it's really handy. If I wanted to have a double strand, I would do that exact same motion again with a separate strand, and it would go through and it would come out the other side. But I'm just going to keep it simple.
And this is the 0.5, no, 0.8.
This is the 0.8. Yeah, this is a little bit bulkier. I'll probably go over it with a contrasting, 0.5. I actually think I may have run out of that.
That's okay. Just use, let's use that guy.
We'll use the 0.5 as the contrasting, so it's easier to see. But first I want to show you how to set this up on the board. So as you can see, I've got the large macrame board. I've used the travel size, and that works great too. But when you're working with necklaces, you kind of want a little bit more room.
Right.
So,
and this sits nicely on your lap or your table.
It does.
I've really become, since you've been working with this, I've kind of become a convert to this macrame board. I was using the deep dish a lot, but the macrame board I think is, I like the pins.
I love the pins. I've had this same macrame board since I started macrameing, and the travel board as well. And you just need simple sewing pins, and these grooves along the side just make life so much easier.
So much easier.
So I'm going to put this in a place where I feel comfortable. And by doing...
You're in a really good place right now.
I'm in a really good place. I'm feeling good. And I'm going to stick a pin right through there. You can do 2 if you want. You don't have to go absolutely nuts, but, you know, it's nice to have it secure.
And I notice you're just using regular sewing pins instead of T-pins.
Yeah, with the cords, because a lot of times I like to actually stab right through my cord. I don't want it to fray.
Right?
Yeah.
And the sewing pins, everybody has a pin cushion, I bet, at home, even if it's not yours. Maybe it was your grandmother's.
Yeah.
So you probably have sewing pins right at home when you're doing this.
Absolutely. And the thinner the better. I find, you know, they don't have to be long. The quilter pins are great too, but they're just a little too long. So now I'm going to bring up my sides into these grooves up top here. And just bring them through. And if you want to create even more tension, because these are going to be our base cords we're knotting around, you can take the rest of that cord and you can tuck it in another groove.
Nice. And it just holds everything.
And it won't slip. Yeah, so I like to do that.
Nice.
Sometimes I'll even get fancy and like that.
And when you were evacuated from the fires, this was what you had to work with, right?
Yes.
So it's super portable.
It's super portable.
Even when you're evacuating from the Great California Fires.
Yes.
But we're very glad that all is well with you.
I didn't grab my bead collection, but I did grab the samples for this.
Right,
so that was
always thinking of us, Brittany. Always thinking of us.
I am. I had to rewrite the PDF on my phone. So, you know, but I'm glad that everybody's flexible.
Yes.
And you know, if there's ever any questions, we're always happy to help.
Yeah, that's for sure. So
we've got this set up. The one thing I did not bring was my wine cork, but that's okay. We're going to turn this entire board around as we're working on it.
So you use the wine cork to help you lift, right?
I do. I use the wine corks to help me elevate my strands.
Oh, great. I will get you what we use around here, which is our KO bobbins.
Excellent.
How does that sound?
Sounds fantastic. I'm just going to adjust the camera a bit.
It's kind of fun to be able to adjust the camera,
It
right?
is. It is. I just want to make sure everybody can see.
Here's some blue KO. That worked for you?
That
I've got
works
2
great.
of them.
That's beautiful.
If you need 2.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm just going to work on one side at a time.
Perfect.
I'll move these little pins over here. Now to elevate your cords, just lift and stick that KO right underneath there. And then you have this beautiful working space. And you can always kind of reevaluate your pins. Okay.
And you use a wine cork because you do live in wine country,
I
which
do.
is
there was a heavy
the best. Heavy supply, which I love. So if you need a wine cork, you guys, you know what to do. Just go out and buy.
Yeah, just go out and buy a companion bottle of wine. So I've got the 0.5 here. I'm gonna start by doing a flat macrame.
The flat macrame.
Yeah,
Here's this one
just
too.
to kind of get us all. Yeah, we're gonna be starting on this side here. So I'm gonna cut. I like to cut 2 to 3 yards at a time. Since I'm only doing a little section, I'll probably only cut a yard.
Right. And the all of the materials, if you've come in a little late, all of the materials and tools and everything are listed over on beadshop.com. And yes, we do carry, this macrame board has been something that we've carried since the very beginning. We love it so much.
Love it, love it, love it.
So it would be a great thing to add to your tool arsenal.
Yes.
If you don't have it already.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I absolutely love it. Okay, so I cut a yard of my Geisha in 0.5 and I bent it in half, and at the halfway point here, we're going to bring that underneath our base cord.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, how much did you cut, Brittany?
1 yard.
1 yard. Okay.
1 yard, just because I'm just gonna do a little section.
Okay.
And then I'm actually gonna try every little technique that I cover in these necklaces on this one.
Perfect.
So it's gonna be very creative.
I love it.
So now, for those of you who are familiar, this is the same pattern as Bollywood. We're gonna be doing a macrame flat knot, and my favorite way of doing that is to I start with the right side first. I make what looks like a P by bringing my right tail over my base cord. Here is my left tail. That's going to go over the right tail, under the base cord, up and through that loop of the P.
You explained this so well. It's because you're the master.
I'm
such a hack when I do this. I'm just going to loop this around and then...
Just remember P's and Q's.
Right, your P's and Q's.
P's for princesses, Q's for queens.
Oh my gosh, it's so clever.
I tend to be a little bit more of a princess than a queen, I guess, because I always end up making my spiral knots. So spiral knots is just doing that one motion over and over again, and I'll show that more clearly. But the flat knot, so we've got one half of our flat knot. We did the P. Now we're going to alternate and do the Q, or some people it looks like a 4. We're going to bring the left tail over the base cord. We're going to bring the right tail over the left tail, under the base cord, and it's going to go up and through that loop of the Q, and then tighten. And then I'm going to tighten this view just a smidge. Okay, as you can see, and I'll point with a pin because it's just a little bit easier, when we tighten our knots, there's alternating vertical bumps right here. So this was from our first knot, and this is from our second. And these little vertical bumps are what kind of indicate which side we're going to be bringing over the base cord next. So if you stop anywhere in your design, like if I were to stop here, I would know that if I wanted to continue with my flat knot, I would just look for this little vertical bump right here. So I'd pick up my right thread.
And that's your looper.
That's my looper.
Perfect.
P for princess, P for perfect.
P for...
Q for questioning.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
P for yes.
Yes.
We did it.
Yes. So bringing it up and under again. And then we're going to tighten. And it kind of looks like a little, I always thought that the flat knot looked like a little bit of a pretzel.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So I want to add beads. If I wanted to make this completely simple, this is obviously the way that you would close your necklace with a typical Bollywood style ending. You can just continue this flat knot as long as you want, but I kind of want to jazz it up a little bit. So my little vertical bump is on this left side here. I'm going to pre-string all of my beads that I want so that I can achieve this pattern.
Right, that's very clever.
It makes life easier. It really does. And I like to take a little bit of zap glue and just make a self needle with my 8/0 and stringing them on.
And it just helps them fly.
It does.
Fly right on.
It does. And you know, once you string them all up, and that's one of the reasons why I loved this as like an airplane project, because you could string everything up and not worry about bringing heavy tools with you.
Right.
I don't know how they feel about pins. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to actually.
Do you want to zap it? We've got some zap. Do you want a little baggie? I have one right here.
Oh sure. Thank you.
And the zap needle, I know, sometimes I try and say, oh, I don't need, whoops, that had a daisy spacer in it.
Thank you.
I don't need to zap it, right? And then you go, oh, I actually
do. And then you get frustrated because you drop all your beads and go everywhere. I know. It's like every time I try to take a shortcut, I hear my grandfather's voice because he was a painter.
Right.
Brittany, just put the drop cloth down.
Right.
Just put the drop cloth down. You're going to drop that paint all over the carpet. All right.
And that zap dries so quickly.
It does. And it really stiffens the end. You can even take your cutters afterwards and just cut a nice sharp angle. I find it much easier than dealing with needles. I mean,
my needles like to end up on the floor.
Oh yeah, my needles like to end up in my finger. So
yeah.
Okay, so I cut that at an angle. Now I'm going to string up my 8/0. And if you're using the 0.8, the 8/0 will be a little too thick. So use a thinner base cord.
Mm-hmm.
I've even used 4 as my base cords.
As your knotting cords.
Yes.
Right. And Brittany, if I wanted to, could I pop up to a 6/0?
Oh yeah.
To make it a little
fantastic.
Just maybe if you had a larger
yeah.
Centerpiece or whatever, and you just wanted things to be a little bit bigger.
Absolutely. In fact, the original Bollywood called for 6/0, and I love that look as well. So I'm gonna just pretend that I strung we'll do 6 beads. You want an even amount because you want it to be symmetrical.
Right.
So I've got 6 beads here. And if you want to, if you're done with that and you don't want your beads to fall off, you can simply just tie a little knot at the end of your cord that's containing all those beads so that they don't go anywhere.
Right, that's really smart.
There we are. Now, got my little vertical bump right here. So that's going to tell me I'm going to slide a bead, just one, right up to the edge where that bump is. I'm going to continue knotting as though it's not there. So I'm going to make a Q for queen. Right tail's going to go over, that left tail under, up and through that loop, tighten. Now I'm going to bring a bead because my strand with beads is on the other side now. Gonna bring it up towards the bump. P for princess. Under, up, and through that loop. And what the Bollywood pattern that I like to do is 2 blank knots, 2 blank full square knots, and then 2 adorned ones. So we've got, I'm going to do just a plain. You can get more beady if you want, but this is just how I do it.
Well, and I like that the gold color that you chose because I think it's a nice contrast to all that.
It is. It really stands out, and it's.
And here you go. You can see over here too if you need.
Oh, great. Oh, great. I was just gonna maybe widen out a little bit. There we go. Okay. Left tail crosses over. Goes under, up, through. Tighten. Now what you'll notice is as we are adorning the beads, they're going to kind of want to go this way. Like they kind of push away from you. And when you turn it around, you see how the beads kind of come towards you here? Whereas when we're working on it, they're going to be kind of pushed away. So it's just a total personal preference and how you just want to be mindful of that. This asana, or this resting Buddha charm is double-sided, so you have the choice of how you want it to look. If you wanted, if you only had one sided pendant and you wanted your beads to kind of float outward away from your skin, then you just turn your pendant around. So you start with the back side facing you. I hope that makes sense.
And I'm going to widen this just a hair, I think, if I can. Can you widen it just?
I sure can.
Just a touch. There we go. Yeah. And again, you guys, thank you so much for hanging in there with our connectivity. Sometimes it's a little bit of a challenge.
It certainly can be.
Since I'm our whole production department.
I think you've done a marvelous job. It's the technology changes all the time.
Yes.
But beading stays the same.
It does. It does. Thankfully.
I know. All right, so we've got the kind of got the hang of our Bollywood pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, maybe I'll do 2 more beads. Q for queen, up through the loop, and then I'm going to transition to a spiral knot with a different color.
Oh, great. I'm excited to see how you do this spiral knot.
The spiral knot's fun.
It is fun, and I think visually it has so much impact that, and it's just something we don't do as much.
Yeah, I mean it can be kind of a, you know, the thing is it can kind of a fickle knot. It's not it's not symmetrical, but as like the flat knot is. But I love the contrast, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it a piece in the 0.8 so that you can kind of see the transition. And let's see, is that what this one is?
Oh, 0.8.
I wonder if I can I use one of those colors that you're
Oh, sure. You know what? I might have another one open too. You want that? Which color do you want, Brittany? Brittany? Or you can just open that one that you have there too. But you want a 0.8? Is that what you said?
Oh, I have it right here, Kate.
Okay.
I already have it.
Okay.
I'm great.
Shoo.
Yeah. We're good. We're good. And I was thinking about doing it actually in this darker.
Yeah, so it shows
so
the
that you
difference.
can see the transition, because I feel like the transition's pretty important to cover.
Now, this this spiral knot that you're doing, this one was also from our 5-stitch project, is that right? Yes.
Oh, you know, I do want to what I want to do is actually, I'm going to keep the same size in this.
Okay, so you'd like a 5?
In a 5, is it okay if I open this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here, let me just double check and see. Here's your 5, it's right there.
Beautiful.
I got it. I got
great. Thank you, because I want to show how to do these.
Those beads on there.
Okay. Sorry, folks. I'm going to actually show it twice because there's 2 techniques here. So with the spiral knot, I'm going to show you just the plain spiral knot, and then I'll go on the other side and I'll show you how to create the beaded look with the spiral.
And here's the 5 if you wanted something that was a little more contrasty.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think we're good. Just want to make sure that these fit over the 8. See, that's why it's important to have all the sizes, because, you know, if you find that you have some beads you want to incorporate in your design, and, you know, like the 0.8, I'm not sure how that's going to fit through. I don't think that'll fit through. But for now, to make a nice smooth transition, the tails from your square knot, you can just tuck those.
Oh, that's smart.
Right in the same area.
Out the way for you. And then you can kind of lift it. There you go. See that?
Yeah.
How it just, and that's what makes this board so
user friendly.
Yeah, super user friendly.
Super user friendly. I just love it too. Now I'm going to cut a new cord here because I'm going to do a spiral, and I want this spiral to be a little bit bulkier. So I'm just going to cut a little piece of boysenberry here.
Sorry, I stole your clippers.
Oh, you're great.
I stole them.
It's all good. And I'm going to tighten this up just a smidge.
And we also had a request from Geisha. She loves the bracelet that's on your right hand. More of that will be coming, you guys. Yes,
fun.
Yes.
That's
more of that will be coming.
That's going to be a fun one.
Yes.
Very, very easy technique, actually, which is refreshing.
Yes, it is so true. So don't worry, Geisha. Your wish is our command.
Yes. So the new length, we're going to start out just like we did with the square knot on the Bollywood pattern, but we're going to, at the halfway point, bring it underneath 3 base cords. Okay? So we have an equal size tail on each side. And just like we did before, we're going to start like we're going to do a flat knot. I do P for princess because it's just habit, bringing my left tail under, up and through. Now instead of alternating, we're just going to stick with P's.
Okay.
Or Q's. If you're a queen, stick with Q's. But you want to stick with one direction. So I tend to go for P's. So here we go. And we're just going to continue.
And you are, again, you're knotting over everything.
Over everything.
All 4 cords.
All 4 cords. Even though, I mean, what I eventually do to taper it out is I do cut them one at a time. Eventually. And I taper it.
Oh, that's smart. Oh,
so yeah.
Terribly clever.
Thank you.
Terribly clever.
It makes it a little bit smoother, more subtle transition. So I'll cut one of those away right now, just so you can kind of see. And I'm going to continue my work, making P's, and you can see that it's starting to twist.
Right, and that's what, I did this macrame with a twist project, which was really fun to do, but I'll tell you, it kind of gave me the fits because I really wanted my knots to look really beautiful, so I really had to thank.
Even tension.
Yeah.
Even tension really helps. And then, so I don't know if you caught what I did there, but see how it's starting to twist? This is Nicole's favorite trick, was, if you see that your threads are starting to go under like this, just go with it. You can swap it. So
okay, so you can't. So that's what you do.
Yeah. So you just and you keep making P's, and it also will make it that technique right there, just kind of going with your threads and doing what they want to do, will create more consistent knots, and will also prevent you from having several inches longer on one side than the other.
Right. That makes sense. And you're using right now still the 0.5.
I'm using the 0.8, actually.
Oh, 0.8. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I switched over to the 0.8. No, that's fine. I just kind of wanted to do it so people could see the difference in texture. And I'll bring this in just a smidge closer. There we go. Excellent. So continuing to make P's. And if I wanted to cut that other piece of base cord away, the leftover from my square knots, I can do that now.
And do you glue it at all?
No, I don't.
You just go for it.
I just go for it. You can if you really want that extra reassurance, but it's not going to go anywhere. It's caught in there, exactly.
Right.
So see how these are wanting to kind of swap sides?
Right.
Just go
so
with
just
it.
let them.
Just let them.
That, what, that was my big question.
Cool.
And
I'm glad that helps.
So that's really great.
Yeah, it really makes it, and it goes quick. And if I were to do all Q's, my spiral would go the other way. And you can switch it up if you want to. You can do P's on, one section, Q's on another. Right.
So it has a meandering.
Yeah. And see, in your spiral will want to tighten up. It'll tighten up. So it starting to look pretty consistent.
And again, you just cut away. That was one of the base cords from this.
From the previous pattern.
Section. You're not going to cut away your necklace base.
No, don't cut away your necklace base. However, if you do, it's not the end of the world as long as you have long enough tails. I have definitely. This is something that's very flexible. You can totally play with. You can add an additional base cord in if you want to, and macrame over it for a seamless finish. And there's so many different things you can do. And what I'm aimed to do today is to just try to inspire you with a few techniques that you can arm yourself with and go out and just start creating.
Yeah, just play around with them.
So
that looks great.
So yeah, I'm gonna stop about right here. Maybe I'll do one more knot just for fun, for funsies.
Fun for just good times.
Yeah, and I'm going to. So here I did a silk wrap, and I think everybody is pretty familiar with silk wraps.
Yeah.
I didn't include it in the handout, but I will happily go over it one more time.
Yeah, we'll do it one more time. But we do have a great skill builder. If you go to our website, beadshop.com. And I know many of you do, and many of you have them printed out already. But if you go to beadshop.com and you go under our skill builders, you will find a whole bunch of basic skill builders that'll really come in handy, including the silk wrap.
The silk wrap. It's wonderful. It does make everything seamless. So I'm going to finish with silk wrap right here. And then when I do the other side, we're going to do one side that looks like, the next side's going to look like this. So I cut a length for my silk wrap. I like to cut at least a foot. Kind of depends. It's always better to have more than less. But if you're being very judicious and don't want to be wasteful.
And again, if you guys are having trouble with your feed, we're streaming Strung on our end, so you can always go back, go out of your feed and go back in. Also, you want to make sure that you're running on, if you can at all, connect to an internet connection rather than running on your data. And I bet it will be a little bit better for you.
Oh yeah, that would be, yeah. All right, so simple silk wrap review. You're going to have one long end on top or on bottom, one short end on top, one long end on the bottom. Kind of depends on if you're left-handed or right-handed. Make that loop. I'm going to go towards the outer edge here. Now I'm going to take my long tail. I'm pinching over my loop and my base chords at the same time. That long tail, I'm going to just take this little guy out here. It's going to wrap around all of that, including the little short tail. The first loop is always the hardest, I find.
And it's such a clever way to make such a nice, neat ending.
It is. It is. And take your time. Go slow. Okay. This is definitely not something you want to rush. And as you can see, I'm kind of wrapping in the direction of my loop. And I just love the way that the 0.8 looks on these. The Chinese knotting cord looks with silk wraps. It just looks so polished. It looks expensive.
Yeah.
And it's hard to make cord look expensive.
It is. It is. As we like to say, it elevates the cord.
Elevates the cord.
Yes.
And that's another reason why I really am encourage you to use Chinese knotting cord, because Ceylon is a thread. So it's, you know, twisted filaments, whereas a cord is braided. And it just feels silkier. It's more luxurious when it's a standalone than Ceylon would be in this case. I have done it with Ceylon, and I just wasn't too thrilled with how it came out.
And I like it so it has a little more body to it too. You know, it just really, I think visually really matches everything. You can see the stitch definition is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. So I had been wrapped. I've got my little loop right here. I brought that long tail through the loop, and now I'm going to tighten it, pulling on the short strand. And that is going to bring everything underneath, so that knot is sitting right there. So you can see it's just nice, and you can pull from either side to kind of, you know, play. And then we simply here's our two tails. We're simply going to use some flush cutters, cut those away, cut away one end of our silk wrap, cut away the other end of our silk wrap, and then we're just left with our base cord. And what I would do is I would actually go back in, see how this is kind of unfinished here, and I would take my thread burner and just clean that up a little bit so that you don't see those two tails coming in.
And Curtis is saying this would be a perfect guy necklace as well. It really would.
It really would, yes. My husband actually really liked the simplicity of this necklace, and it's hard to get a lot of guys to wear jewelry, and it's really satisfying when they do. But the spiral knot in of itself, you could do an entire Bollywood bracelet with just a spiral knot, or a Bollywood necklace with a spiral knot, and it would look beautiful.
It really would.
So now on the other side here, what I really want to show you.
Are we going to jump in for the drops?
Yes, we're going to do the drops. Now, my one concern, so the drops, the way they work on these, on the spiral macrame is they actually go over the base cord.
Oh, I see.
So I might actually need to swap this out for something just a little bit smaller.
The 4 millimeter or the 0.4
or
millimeter.
the 5. Yeah, the 0.4 would be good. You know, just for instructional purposes, I'll go ahead and move that to the side. The 4 is wonderful. I really and that's this one here. It's the thinnest one, and there is quite a bit of difference between the 4 and the 5. There it is. Thickness wise, and I'll just kind of drape them over. See, the 4 just kind of feels, it's the one on the bottom here, it feels a little bit more like a thread in its skinniness, and then the 5 is a little bit more substantial. But to make sure that my drops fit over it, I'm going to take a length.
You're going to test it?
I'm going to test it. And that looks great. That looks fantastic.
Perfect.
Now, you know, Kate, I think what I'm going to do, you kind of, since everybody kind of understands how this is set up, I'm actually not going to add it to this necklace. I'm just going to do the spiral knot with the adorned.
Will you set up the bead?
Yeah.
The drop? Why don't we?
Yeah.
Can we?
Yeah.
May we?
Absolutely.
Let's pull that camera out just a little bit so we've got a little bit of a wider stance there. And yeah, and so the one that we're talking about here, and I just love this. I thought it was so clever. And you know what? That one has been living with us for a couple of weeks, and for some reason, I don't know why, I thought it was on. Well, I would naturally just wire wrap that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
you didn't. It was
didn't.
very good.
I didn't. It's actually there's so yes, I'll do this part, and then I'll add the we'll start a new necklace. So these can obviously be as simple or as complex as you want. I'm gonna start with a length of the 0.4 measuring around my head.
Right. That was a really clever tip because all of these, you guys, like the Bollywood bracelet, you know, there's no clasp. There's just that little slider.
Right.
So it's the same thing. You have to make sure that it fits around the widest part of your head.
Yes.
Or else it'll be too small.
Yeah, you don't want it to be too small. I mean, if it's too small, then you have to give it to somebody who's, you know, like a baby or
someone who's a little smaller.
Somebody who's got a little bit smaller head. But yeah, and you know, it's better to go long and then cut at the end. So, I mean, I also understand that Chinese knotting cord is something that you want to savor in your collection for a while, so you want to be kind of mindful of the length that you cut. So I measured this around my head, and to create this little bead stopper right here, I just took a A-dot seed bead, and I simply strung it and brought it to the middle of my necklace. Then
and those look so, that drop just looks so rich.
it does, and it's just one, and it's got a nice weight to it.
It really does.
So I'm bringing both strands up through the bottom of that bead, feeding both through. Bring it all the way to where my bead stopper is, just like so. And now I'm going to set up my board so that I can start to macrame. Doing the same exact thing as before. Let's see, I might work on this a little bit more vertically. How are you doing on yours, Kate? That looks beautiful.
I have not done hardly a thing, but it'll be fun just to look at the alternate colorway.
It's fun. It absolutely, and you might become addicted to making these.
Yeah, they're so cool. And so even I will say you did that little single Hamza one. You could just simply do a single drop.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be pretty?
It would, and it would be so simple. And we'll do I'll go over the endings after this this next design tip. But you can really, that's exactly what I did here. I just took the 0.8 because it was just such a beautiful thickness and standalone. I didn't want to add anything to it. So I did the 0.8, and then I did the little Bollywood ending with the 0.4.
That really looks nice.
And then just 2 little simple beads at the end.
And you can see, I'm going to flash this one just real quick so you guys can see it. See, there's that little Hamza one that's right at the top. I just think that's so delicate and nice. And if you have a charm or a piece that you just want to wear, even just for a short period of time, this is a perfect way to highlight this.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
Yeah, and really it doesn't take much longer than 20 minutes to throw it together.
No, it's really cool. So you're back on with your little drop.
I'm back on. So I set it up on my board here, and I'm working on it. So I put my tails through the grooves, kind of secured them. And now to keep this in place, I'm just going to take a sewing pin.
Oh, and put it right there in the little Y.
Right there. I actually take 2. I do a little crisscross.
And so essentially the thread path is here, down through the drop, through the A dot, back up through the drop.
Correct.
And that's it.
Correct.
Couldn't be easier.
Yeah, and you could actually do several drops if you wanted to evenly space them.
Right.
And then macrame around those drops. You could do, I mean, there's so many options.
Yeah, this is a good basic move.
And it's fun to do simple ones. It's fun to do really complicated ones. In the process of making the set, I definitely I think I made at least 10.
Wow.
And I tore some of them apart because I just didn't like the way they hung. And you want them to be harmonious, but it's really fun, and it's not a huge time commitment, which is even better.
Yeah, and it's just, again, holidays are coming.
So I actually am going to undo one of my sides here, and I'm going to work on the left side. So I'm just going to take my tail and loosen that from the grips of the macrame board. Now that my pendant is secure, it's not going anywhere. And I am going to thread on my little droplets onto the base cord. So I'm going to do 1.
And that's why you chose the 0.4 millimeter, because those drops
are so fine.
Are small.
Yeah, they're petite. The holes in them are petite. Now, if you wanted to, do something with an even smaller hole, it would be challenging. The 4 is great. People have asked in the past if they can use Ceylon as a base. You can use it as a base cord, but it gets tricky because you want that sliding mechanism to stay intact. And with the Ceylon, it will come untwisted over time when with the friction of the clasping mechanism. Okay, so I've strung on, 4 beautiful little golden droplets here, and I'm going to return my base cord back to those grooves. I'm going to elevate my base cord with my KO thread here. See how this is going to want to move a little bit? That's okay. You can always move your pins so that your center bead is comfortable. Okay, so bring that in a little bit more.
There you go.
Cool. Okay. I'm going to cut a contrasting color, so I'm going to cut this one's open, yes. I'm going to cut a darker purple, the darker purple as my spiral cord that's going to go around. And I'm going to cut 1 yard just because I want a little section. Fold it in half, and at the center point, when you bring your 2 tails together, the center point here, this is where you're going to bring it underneath your base cord. So you can move all of these little droplets out of your way for now. You don't need to have them. And if you want to even make it, here's another little trick that I like to do. I like to actually stick my KO in front of my little droplets.
Oh, to keep them from
encroaching. Exactly. because you want a nice little working space right here. So at that center point of that new cord, bring it behind your base cords. We're going to start a spiral macrame knot. P for princess.
And you could do this with 8.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is the 5 right here, but you can totally do it with 8. It's going to be a little bulkier, but you can do it with any size. The size around, as long as your base cord fits the whole size of the beads that you're going to be spiraling around. That's all that really matters. So I'm going to do just a few more knots here, and then I'm going to tighten this up, and I'm going to go real slow for everybody. And you know what you can also do, once you have a few knots in there, you can actually take your pin and go right, this is the nice thing about sewing pins, you go right through.
Oh, your macrame.
Your macrame cord. So see how it's kind of a little bit more stable.
And it doesn't split the cords or anything because your pin's so small.
Because your pin's nice and delicate.
That's a nice tip. Because I think I get so worried, oh my gosh, I don't have T-pins, but everyone has sewing pins.
Oh yeah, and yeah, the sewing pins are super, super nice because they're very thin. I love those T-pins. They're great for like things that have leather, because I do use them with leather when I am macrameing. All right, so you can see our spiral starting to form. Now, the trick with getting these drops to lay correctly, so that they're not, you know, going all different directions, is to find a point. See how I have one of my threads is going on the top here, and one is directly underneath my base cord. So my knotting cords are in the process of transitioning and turning over. When they're like that, I push the droplet up to the knot, and I continue to knot around. P for princess.
So you're almost ignoring the drop. You just push it up.
You just push it up.
Set it and forget it.
Set it and forget it. But there is a little bit of an art to finding out where you're going to place that bead along your spiral, because as you can see here, now it's laying nicely to the side, and see how my threads are
coming out nicely.
Coming out nicely. But yeah, you're kind of the goal here is to kind of anticipate where your drop is going to fall by where these macrame cords are coming out and going to secure it. So with briolets, you're going to want that thread, those threads to be visible going right over the briolet right there. Does that make sense?
It does, because if the cords were in a different position, it would push the drop out of kilter.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So if I were to, let's say I'm going along here, and don't be afraid to reposition your pins and add more just to secure it. It's not going to see you. You want it to be as secure as possible. But let's say see my cords here, they're kind of, my tails of my macrame cord, they're going perpendicular. If I were to add a drop at this point, if I were to bring it over and continue macrameing, watch what it does. See?
It doesn't even go around. It pushes it.
It pushes it into
down.
Yeah. So you can fix that easily. If you don't like the way it lays, just loosen that knot. Bring that bead out. And macrame until the point where you have literally one of your tails on top of your base cord. So when you're laying them down, see how this beautifully wants to lay right on top of that base cord here. So I've got one, here's my top, here's my base cord, my bottom. They're all in, like, if I were to lay them all straight, they'd be in a perfect line, visible from overhead.
Gotcha. That That's the tip right there.
Okay, cool.
That is great to know.
It's a little bit hard to explain,
Mm-hmm.
but just and practice is
Mhm.
going to make perfect with this particular design. This is the hardest part.
Yeah, it's great though.
It is. It really. You can really incorporate some, like, I mean, you can incorporate gemstones if you can get them to fit. So now I'm going to slide my next droplet, and I'm going to continue with my spiral knot. See how my threads kind of want to switch place? You just let them go with it.
That eases my mind.
Yeah.
That I was doing Nicole justice.
Yes, yeah. She was the one who taught me that, and I always stayed away from the spiral knot because I was concerned I'd have one long tail, and one short one by the time I was done. But since it naturally wants to twist around that base cord,
just let it do it.
Just let it do it. Exactly.
Well, Brittany, I think everybody's riveted.
Oh, good.
Everybody's saying this is brilliant. This is great.
Oh, good. Good.
Really nice.
I'll do a few more so that, we can kind of make sure that people are really feeling comfortable. So it's almost there. One more knot I can see will bring those tails one right over and one right under. And
you're really able to start to read your stitches.
Yes. And you can see there is consistency happening. You've got 2 full spirals here. You got 2 full spirals here. I've got 2 full spirals here. Now this would be the next time to add a bead. If I wanted to keep it, very, very symmetrical.
Everyone's loving it, Britt.
Good. I love it when people learn something new and seeing what they do with it.
Yeah. Oh, it's great.
It's fun.
And I know that some of you ambitious ladies will have this up on our Beadshop bead table group before the end of the day.
Absolutely.
I know it.
Absolutely.
And these do make really, I think, really great presents. Or I know that a lot of you do sell your work, and it's that holiday, kind of boutique time.
Mm-hmm.
These really knock out quickly.
They do.
I think.
They do.
Because you can, especially if you're doing them in a color palette, and kind of make some variations on a theme.
Oh, yeah. But any color, I realized today that my stash of Chinese knotting cord needs to be replenished.
It's so fun to use and so easy to use up, right?
It is. It goes fast. It goes fast. I love it. But you can also get a lot of projects out of one spool, which is pretty incredible. So I've got my 4th one on here, and I'm just gonna keep on macrameing. Now, if I wanted to switch up my pattern to a flat knot using the same knotting cords, I could easily do that.
You just switch, right?
Yeah, you just switch right on over, but you find a good spot to do it, because the thing about the flat knot is it does lay a very specific way. And one tip that I have is if you're going to switch to a flat knot from a spiral knot, you want to wait until, just like the thread positioning is really important when you're adding the drops, you want your thread positioning to be spot on, so that one is going out to the right, one is going out to the left, and your base cord is perpendicular.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Because or else your knot will lay.
It will go cattywampus.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and now, this seems like a really good point for me. I will switch over to the flat knot. P's and Q's.
Will you show us, Brittany, let's just say that I wasn't anticipating my needs and I had to add thread. will you
Yeah.
show us where the best part place would be, maybe to add thread?
For the base chords or for the outer chords?
For the outer chords.
For the outer chords. So if you want to add more thread, kind of as we did before, and I'll go ahead and widen this view a bit. This is really great.
The camera's not too bad. I'm pretty pleased with how things
Yeah.
are coming out, even though we did have a couple of technical difficulties at the beginning. But
It was the price of admission.
that's right.
So
I love that attitude.
Yeah.
Yes, Brittany, it's making me feel better.
the price of
making me
price
feel
of
better.
admission. That looks great.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait to share it with people.
Oh, I can't wait.
You know me. I
Yeah,
like to just evolve.
I love it.
Okay, great job, Britt. Now I'm gonna go crazy off the.
That's what
off
you got.
the rails.
That's my favorite part. You gotta make it yours. So if you want to add more thread, say like I have just a few inches left here, and I'm like, oh, I really want to continue this nice dark purple down towards whenever I'm ready to call it quits. I'll take this little spool of thread out from underneath. You want to make sure you just cut a new piece and go over all three of those, kind of like we did that transition.
Right.
So if I wanted to, like here, if I wanted to switch my color.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got this, geisha here, and I just really want to continue a flat knot with that geisha. Or if I wanted to add new thread, do the same thing. You cut a length at the center point, bring it behind and underneath all of your base chords. At that center point there, I'm going to elevate my base chords, and you're literally just going to, let's see, now if I wanted to continue the flat knot, here's a good little tip. My little vertical bump here, right on this side, that's going to indicate to me if I want to continue with the flat knot look, I've got to take my left chord, left tail. We're going to start with the Q position. So that when you tighten it, it's kind of seamless.
Yeah, it's nice. It's really nice.
And then, just kind of as we did with the transition, once you have a few knots over all three of those chords, or two if you ran out of thread, or I could cut them.
You just taper down.
Yeah, you taper down, exactly. And it makes it a nice, seamless kind of transition here.
That's so awesome.
It's fun. It's really fun.
Now, next, will you show us the closure?
Yes, absolutely. Closure is very easy.
It's this was so clever. And, like many people who are commenting and watching, Brittany, your video was the first thing I watched when I came back on board at Beadshop. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Because I'm like, how is this whole knotting thing, how's that going to all happen? So it was really great. So I feel like, this kind of set me on I did some macrame, but it really solidly set me on my macrame path. And I
love it.
Love this closure.
I do too. I love this closure, with all the different, and it makes me so happy to hear that, Kate, because macrame can be very intimidating, and I didn't even start macrameing until I did Bollywood.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah. I wanted to learn how to do it. I just loved the way it looked, and what's really funny is my dad actually taught me how to macrame.
Isn't that funny?
He does paracord bracelets and survival bracelets.
Oh, wow.
And so he makes these big paracord belts, and it contains a lot of thread. And what he does, he's actually the one who taught me how to do this closure.
Wow, I love it.
And on this particular one here, so this is a skinny version. I'm just going to kind of show everybody the different closures that I have. They're all the same. One's a spiral knot, one's a flat knot. But you're taking your ends. Whoopsies. This is a better example because it's a little bit bigger. You're taking your ends and you're bringing them all together. with one consistent knot. And you don't want to make it too tight, you know. I mean, you can start out a little bit tight, but you want to keep even tension along your knotting. And this actually is doubled over the way we did in Bollywood. We went one direction and then I brought it back over, and that's actually how in paracord they
close it, increase the bulk.
They increase the bulk because you can actually, the idea with the paracord jewelry is you can take all of those strands apart, and it's all one big piece of rope. It can save your life.
Wow, that is so clever.
He worked on search and rescue. He did volunteer work for 20 years.
Wow.
And sometimes that cord did save his life.
Wow, isn't that, it's such an interesting story.
So it's kind of fun.
That's so cool.
Whoever thought my dad, Mr. Wilderness, would have taught me how to do macrame.
I love it. Can we get a little tighter for that closure?
Yes, absolutely.
Just a slight bit, because I can see it really clearly here, but I want everybody to be able to see it.
Absolutely. And I'm going to start fresh with a new piece so I can show people how to get that on the board. So, where's that little piece I was working on? Here it is. I'm going to widen it just for a moment.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure I'm super clear. So we're going to pretend I've adorned both sides of this. And you can adorn it for as long as you want. And what you can do at this stage is you can try it on, see if you like the amount of knotting you've got on your macrame necklace. You can stop there. You can keep going if you want to. But when you've decided that enough is enough and you want to bring those ends together, first of all, I would do a preliminary knot at the end of your cord, maybe about 1.5 inches to 2 inches in. Okay? Both sides. So that when we test this to make sure it fits, the base cords don't slide out. And then we're going to crisscross them. So one is going this way, one is going to the right. And then we can use pins to kind of hold things in place. I like to use the edges of my board here. And then I use pins to kind of create a triangle. You don't want to, it doesn't have to be too much tension, just has to stay put. Okay. We can elevate our cords.
Oh, that's really good. That triangle, that's very clever. Yeah. I would have just been flopping around.
I did a lot of flopping before I came up with this. And it does want to flop, but the little tops of the pins here, and you can use T-pins for this too. This might be great time for T-pins, because as long as there's something to stop the cords from coming undone, like that little ball point, you'll be good.
No, it's really nice.
Okay, so now I'm going to bring this in just a bit, because now we're going to be macrameing around these base cords right here. A lot of these closures, I did the flat knot. There was one I did a spiral knot. The spiral knot is just the same. It's easy, except for instead of going back over itself for added support, you just literally cut it at the end.
Glue it.
Yeah, and then you glue around the outer edges of those spirals, because if you keep the glue to the outer edge of the spiral, it won't go in and adhere the base cords.
Right, because you don't want to glue that slider onto your base threads.
Exactly. And this is held up unbelievably well.
It's really not. I really like how the spiral looks.
And the nice thing about the spiral is you can still kind of tighten it.
Yeah.
You can kind of
smush it. Yeah.
Smush it, which is really cool. I didn't even think about doing that when I was starting out on this macrame journey, but it's great. So I'm going to take this I've got a little piece of 0.8 here, Chinese knotting cord, and I'm going to bring the middle, just like I'm going to start, just like I was macrameing before. We're going to start our first knot.
And would you always use a 0.8?
I actually like to use the 0.4 or the 0.5. I've used all of them in these designs. I think I'm just doing it in the 0.8 so for visibility.
So you guys can see it, but you could do it in any.
You really can. Yeah. And I encourage you to play, because that's half the fun of this entire project is the fact that you can play with different widths, different sizes. You could even do this part in Ceylon if you really wanted to.
Oh, that's smart too. Well, you the comments are blowing up, Brittany, how A, how clever you are, and B, how beautiful this project is.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Yeah, it's really great.
So
I agree
happy
with all of you guys. I'm learning so much today.
It's fun. It's really fun. And you can make what I recommend with the sliding closure is make it about an inch. You know, I find that if it's less and it comes unraveled, then, it's just, I also find that the surface area that it covers over those base chords, like an inch, maybe even a centimeter, is perfect. So with this one is done with the 0.4, but it looks bulkier because I went back over it and went the opposite direction. And then what I did was I glued the outer edges here to keep it from coming unraveled, because that is going to see quite a bit of friction. And the trick with making these sliding closures is you don't want to pull with all your might. Just even tension like you were doing before. You don't have to pull too tightly, because you want those base chords to be able to move freely underneath. And a way you can always check that, you can take your pins out here and you can pull. See, that's nice. You want to hear it.
It has a little bit of grip.
It does have a little bit of grip, but you don't want to have to be straining to pull it. But yeah, that's just like that. And then when I say go back over, like if you wanted to go back over here, I'll do one in the 0.4 right next to it, so you can kind of see the difference.
Oh, great. Because I know people are as riveted as I am to see you do this closure.
Oh, cool. Okay. I'm going to just slide that one down there, and I'm going to do a closure in 0.4.
You have the 0.4 deal? Yeah, there you go.
There we go. And I would cut a yard. Why not? I mean, at the end, give yourself at least a couple feet, like at least 2 feet. 2 feet to a yard is good, because you want to make sure that this is the closure mechanism of your piece. You don't want to come up short. So at the halfway point, bring it behind both my base chords. And I'm going to do a flat macrame knot. Take your time. Under, up, and through.
And again, about an inch, you're saying?
Yeah, that just seems to be kind of the magic number. Easy to put on, easy to take off, easy to tighten and loosen. It just is the magic length, it seems like, for this style. How are we doing here? I'm going to put a little bit of a tighter view. Great.
And then this is, Lorraine was asking what size cord. This is the 0.4.
This is the 0.4. I like to go back over it one time, and I'll show you what that looks like, because it adds bulk, and it's not too bulky. It's effective. The finer the cord, the tougher the grip, I feel. maybe a few more knots, and then I'll turn it around and I'll show you what I mean when I say go back over it. There's a lot of ways of ending these macrame closures. I've tried using the big eye needles and bringing the tails back through. I don't, in the long term, I don't really recommend it because you'll probably bust your needle or your thread in the process. So when I say turning it around, so now I've got, you know, I would say about a centimeter, maybe, you know, close to an inch. I'm going to turn this whole thing around.
Turn the ship around.
Turn that ship around. Okay, and now I'm going to do exactly the same thing I was doing before, but I'm just going to go towards me. I'm going to be, if you turn it around, your knots will start to lay on top of the previous row of macrame.
And Allie has shown us, it's something we've done in a couple of projects, pardon me, she has done this little trick where she does use the flexible eye needle and brings things back underneath. And she has this kind of finesse that she does. The whole idea behind that is that the that your initial macrame is not, it's tight, but it's not too tight, and she actually does it over the needle so the needle is in there.
Oh, that's smart. I've done that in the past, but you know, I think that part of it, what the hardest part for me in getting it, because I've done that with pieces that, especially pieces that are, you know, made for other people. I find that even doing with the needle in there, you still have to bring these bulky cords back through. And where I get tripped up is the needle, the collapsible eye needle, will actually slice.
Just it slices your thread,
Yeah.
So you have to really, you do have to finesse it with the lightest touch.
With the lightest touch. And with the Bollywood style necklaces, especially if you're trying to make these, you know, in time for the holidays, I would just, my recommendation would be just to do it this way.
Yeah, no, it's great. And you make it look so clean.
Oh, thank you. The thread burner is a huge help.
Yeah.
I feel like a combination between the GS Hypo Cement, the thread burner, and flush cutters, you can do anything. You're unstoppable at that point.
And this with the 0.4 millimeter, it is very clever. It really does give you a little more bulk.
And insurance too, you know, like with my original Bollywoods, they kind of came apart because I only did it once, and then I used glue, and eventually, you know, it's a clasping mechanism. You touch it a lot, the oils from your skin will release the glue. It just, over time, they would break down. So I found that since I've switched to this method, I haven't had any kind of issue. So right about here is where I'm going to make the choice to thread burn.
Do you need any hypo cement? I've got some open right here.
Oh, I will. Yeah, I will. But I'm going to do that at the very end.
Okay.
So that last knot was pretty tight. I'm going to bring this thread burner, bring the thread through, push.
And done.
Yeah. So I'll do that one more time on this side. Bring your thread through that little guy.
Yeah, so you're actually pulling the burner away, not pushing it towards your knot.
Yes.
Where you could actually singe the whole knot.
And get it right up to that edge before you even push the button, folks. Now I'm pushing the button, and boom.
There it went.
Now I'm going to bring it in even tighter and show you where to glue. Is that too tight? That's too tight. Excellent.
There we go.
So I've got my GS Hypo Cement. I don't even push, I just wait for that little bubble to appear. And I go around the outer edge. Whoops. The outer edge of my macrame knots. Because then you won't get those base cords all gunked up. Let it dry. If you want to right now, or like after it just takes a few seconds to set, But if you want to go ahead and test your piece to make sure that those bass chords can still move, pull those pins. And this was from previous. And just make sure that those chords can still move underneath, and they can.
Oh, you're such a master.
Well, I learned from them. I learned from many masters, including you. So,
Wow.
Okay. And one thing I do want to show you before we're done here is how to
Put that little ender.
Yeah.
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah. So the hole size here was very specific on these beautiful amethyst drops. As you can see, I had 2 bass chords running through on each side. So I ended up macrameing on this piece over 4 bass chords total. 2 on the left, 2 on the right. And then when I came to the end, I knew I wanted these little drops, but the hole size could only accommodate for 1. So one trick that you do is...
Yes, I want to see this trick.
Yeah, this is a fun trick. So one thing you can do here... See if I have a stray piece of thread that I can really... I do. At this point, you'll probably want to try it on, and what I did here is I brought both of my, here we go, bring that in a little bit. So I have 2 bass chords on one side. I did an overhand knot with both of those bass chords. And then I slid the bead onto just one of those bass chords and tied a knot at the end. And I cut the previous bass chord right underneath.
Oh, underneath. You just ended it at the knot. And did you glue that knot?
I did. Yes, I did. I glued both of these knots. But what I'll do with this one, here's my...
So you just reduced by 1 strand under that last overhand knot.
Under that last overhand knot.
Very smart.
It's a way to adorn and finish your pieces if you've got multiple chords and your bead only fits through one. It only has to fit through one. So
right, because that's heavy and this cord is so thick too.
Exactly. So I would basically I would make a knot towards the end of my necklace, making sure that it still fits. That's what those preliminary knots are for, is to make sure that that you can try this on after you create your clasping mechanism. Pull these, try to get it over your head, and that's hopefully why you've left yourself a few inches on either side to work with, because you might find that it's too tight and you might need to move those knots down a bit.
And that bass chord that you used for that one was a 0.5, is that right?
This one is this is the 8.
The 8, I'm sorry, 0.08.
Yeah, this one is the 8. And I'm going to see if this actually does fit perfectly.
So most of these chords are interchangeable.
Yeah, they really are. Your limiting factor is the beads that you want to put on there and the whole size of the beads. But yeah, that's why I recommend getting all of the sizes. So then just to do an overhand knot next to that bead, my favorite little trick. To make sure that that knot rests right up to the edge is I stick a pin through my loop and tighten slowly. Just like that.
That looks great. And Brittany, I know you'll like this comment. Lynn says, Brittany, you're the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh,
you have given us so many wonderful tips.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, I really appreciate, all the feedback, and sometimes I don't feel like I'm as clear as I should be.
No, they're really good.
I'm glad.
It's
I'm really, really,
really
glad. So yeah, so that is how you end the macrame necklaces. And you can even do this, like I said, the spiral knot. It's just, the possibilities are endless. I'm wondering if there's any questions that anybody has.
Well, what I would like for you to do, let's pull the camera out just a little bit, and I'd like you, now that everyone understands the knots, let's just flash each one of those, though you can see it really nicely on the project map that Karen put on the website. You can go right to the project page and you'll see each of these 5 necklaces laid out perfectly with the notes. But just so everybody can kind of have one final look, and then I will show you what I've been knotting.
You've been up to.
I don't know, we'll see.
I can't wait. So here's the simple little Hamza one that's just on the 8.
And those are all closed the same way with that Bollywood fish, what I call kind of the fishtail closure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You just want to make sure that it fits over your head before you tie those final knots at the end here.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got, let me pull that camera out even a little bit more. No?
I think you can raise it too. Here, let me help you.
Oh,
with that. There we go.
Awesome.
And you can pull it down towards you just a little bit there.
Oh, beautiful.
There we go. I think that's okay.
Beautiful.
Right?
Yeah. There we go. And then this more.
They're all over.
Sorry,
our table,
folks.
You know, our table is just, I know as you're beating.
Station.
That's right. Oh, I like that story. That's what I'm going to call it from now on. Our creation station.
It is, where time doesn't matter.
And I'm not going to worry about the mess on my creation station.
That's right. That's what it's for.
Right?
I mean, the first thing I do when I make a mess, or when I clean up a mess, is want to make another one. So.
That's right. Well, I also like, there's a comment over on our YouTube feed, and the comment is, this demo is so timely. She was just sitting down to do a macrame necklace and didn't have the right size seal on. After watching today's tips, she can proceed.
Oh, good.
So that's great.
Good. I'm so happy to hear that. All right. So we've got 4. I feel like there's a 5th one.
There it is, our resting Buddha.
Our resting Buddha, which has, and I'm going to move this little simple one over for a moment, which has the spiral closure.
Mm-hmm. And again, if you go to beadshop.com, you'll find all of the products and information about the project. So you'll be able to see the project map that Karen took and all of that. So you'll be able to see it up close again after the broadcast is over. And do download Brittany's little PDF. I think you'll find it very helpful.
I hope so. I hope so. And just play. You know, one thing I don't know if I covered, but we've done this, I know you've done this in several free tips and several projects, is the macrame, the flat macrame around these beads here.
Yeah, so essentially you just strung the bead on the base cord.
The base cord.
And
is the flat knot, and then bringing those outer threads around, doing a couple of knots, bringing it around, and you get this beautiful caged effect.
Mm-hmm. And what about this one that you have here, Brittany? Can you kind of hold this up a little bit closer to the camera so people can see the kind of wee little knots that you did with that?
So this is all done in the 4. There's one single base cord of the 0.4 running through the entire thing. And I, down here, simply strung those 8/0 beads, and I started my macrame with a spiral here. And then I changed into a flat knot, and I decided to macrame around some of these. Is it okay if I use the pointer?
Oh, here.
Oh, thank you
take
so
that.
much. Thank you. I macrameed around a few beads, and then I stopped, and you see that the macrame threads kind of end. I glued it there. I actually made glue part of this design because I wanted some to have to be freeform, and I wanted some of these beads to have a cage effect. It really kind of creates some cool looking, it almost looks like a chain or like a texture.
That's what I thought. It really looked nice. And you guys can really see the contrast of the sizes. That's all done with the 0.4, so the delicate look of that 0.4 cord is really different than the 5 or the 8.
It really is. You can it does feel, it's very lightweight. It just kind of has wonderful movement. And I incorporated both a spiral technique right here, and then where I started my cord and where I ended my cords, you know, I kind of just did it as I went. Like up here you can kind of see, here's the spiral. It changes to the flat macrame knot. And then I stopped, I glued, I thread burned those away, and then I started again, back this way. But since the glue kind of darkens your thread, you just kind of want to be mindful of that and kind of take that into an account. So I just, for symmetry's sake, I added glue on all of those transition points.
Right.
To make it look part of the design.
Right. Makes it look like it was deliberate.
And yeah, definitely intentional, and it's held up nicely. And then on the closure here, you can see on one side I glued, and the other side I didn't. I just did it very, this was like I did before. I took the 0.4 and I macrameed, and then I went back over it, so you can see that bulk.
It looks really nice. And then on the ends of all of these, you did just little ties of beads and stuff, just like we would on the regular Bollywood.
Yeah. And see, like with this one here, I went from 2 base cords. I made an overhand knot. I threaded, obviously the 0.8 or the 8/0 beads wouldn't fit over both strands, so I just reduced it. I just reduced it to 1 strand and then finished it off.
No, it really looks nice. Well, I'm going to show you. I'll throw this one over. This is kind of an homage to a project I'm going to be doing in a couple of weeks. Those of you, so I've got these drops on my mind.
Do you want to sit over there?
No, I'll just put it there for you to check out.
Ooh, beautiful.
Those of you who remember the lookbook, the latest lookbook that Ali and the design team did, there's a piece in there called Water Garden. And we're going to do some more macrame work with that. But as Brittany was putting the drops on her piece, which I adore, that has the, pull the spiral so it has we have a nice little editorial piece here. But you can see how Brittany did them with the spiral there, right? Well, I am working with her Water Garden piece, and we're doing it with the flat knot. And so I wanted also the thread, this kind of golden toffee thread,
so pretty,
to come forward with the color. So I've got that Williamsburg blue, the golden toffee, and then I took your advice, Brittany, and I love how it looks. Is that spring leaf?
Beautiful.
And I think the spring leaf, pardon me, kind of bookends this verdigris Buddha with that color up at the top.
I think it's gorgeous.
So we'll see. Well, and I thought it was, again, kind of foreshadowing with what I'm going to be doing with Allie's piece.
Yeah.
But I thought it was kind of a fun way to do it. And yours are very polished. This has a little more of a rustic feel.
Oh, I love
to
this.
it, I think.
I love this, and I love how you added those drops using the flat knot, and then you put beads on either side.
Yeah, on either side.
I mean, this just like goes to show how many different options you have.
Yeah.
And the one thing that can happen is you can get overwhelmed, you know, with all the different things you can do. So one little tip that I have when I was working through this is start with your charm.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and really just work around your charm.
Because I pulled, and you guys can see how I might stack this. Maybe I would put that one up there with one, and then maybe I would come and maybe I'd put 2 feathers right next to that. So it just depends. This is a great layering project, and you could just string one,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, just like the little Hamza.
Mhm.
I felt like I love this charm, but I didn't need to do much to it.
Mhm.
So it, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great. And then Lynn has a gluing question, and then we'll wrap this up because I know we could stay on forever when Brittany's here, and our late start didn't help us at all. But so Lynn asks, if you didn't want to glue, would the beads take the extra threads up through inside and start macrameing? Lynn,
It totally depends on the whole
on
size.
the whole size. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things you kind of have to make the call as you're working.
Creating. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there's definitely solutions to making beads work. My challenge was getting these beautiful little delicate droplets
Right, to fit
my thicker cord, and so, but they did.
Well, they look great. Well, here is a list, and Janice, you said that the spindle beads that I chose, those I think were the rose opaline, I think. But there's the list of some of the things that I use there, and we'll have maybe Karen add it if I can ever finish this. Oh no, this is yours.
Oh yeah,
isn't it?
That's mine.
That's
yeah.
yours.
But
mine's
the one that you
mine's on the
have-
floor.
Oh.
Let me grab it. Mine's all the way on the floor over here. Let me see if I can get it. There we go. There we are. Though any of the spindles will look nice as well. Those guys there, and then of course Brittany's list there, and you can find everything over on beadshop.com. And of course I wanted to mention you guys can also sign up for our newsletter. If you opened your newsletter today, and I'm going to put us on, there we are, here we are. If you opened your newsletter today, you did see that it's our 3rd anniversary, and what a great 3rd anniversary broadcast.
So great.
Right? It was
great.
so fun. And it's great, Brittany, to have you on because that Bollywood video that you've done was one of our first big major, and I know that people have watched that.
That's so
for forever.
And
right?
that I feel like that video too has so many, like I really break it down.
Mm-hmm.
And if you feel like confused after this, I would just review it.
Yeah, recommend reviewing it.
Yeah, because there might be some things I said that in that video that I didn't say today.
Well, it was great. And so we also, in your newsletter today, and I'm going to put up this little thing here, you got, and I'll lean over towards Brittany. Whoops, yeah, there we go, so you can see both of us. You can see over here on, let me get my finger in there, there we go. It's from our newsletter, that you can see, there we go, perfect, there it is. You can see that we have a giveaway today. It's actually a raffle, and we have 2 of them. So our raffle here, I'm going to put it closer so it's a little shiny there. It's kind of hard to see. But held back. We had 2 of our, I'll let you hold it up. That's great.
Oh, here, the glare
there we go. The glare is not so bad. On our retreat, we give these great goodie bags on our retreats, and I had 2 left over. And the tote bag features a beautiful watercolor by Janice that she did. It was really fun, and there's lots of beads. You can notice that I'm wearing my beautiful bracelet that Brittany actually made me at the retreat. I'll hold it a little bit closer so you guys can see. I think one of the bags, or both of the bags, actually have these exact beads that Brittany used for this beautiful piece here. And so if you make an order today of $35 or more, and today is the 6th of November, and you put the phrase goodie in your order notes there, you will be entered into the drawing for this wonderful bag. And we've got 2 of them. So we'll announce the winners tomorrow. So today, any order on the 6th, Wednesday, November 6th, you put the word goodie in your order notes, and when Cara gets in, we will pick 2 winners at random, and we'll let you know, and we'll send them out. So that's our little celebration of our 3 years of broadcasting.
Cheers.
Yes, cheers. And cheers to you, Janice, for coming on with me for so many broadcasts, and for saying, yeah, Kate, sure, you want to do this live broadcast? Go for it. So you can watch all of the archive broadcasts as well over on our Facebook feed or on our YouTube channel as well. So next week, I have a really fun project and another fun guest. It's going to be really great. My friend Cynthia Thornton from Green Girl Studios. Cynthia's going to be here. I have a fun project for you, and we're actually going to be doing 2 videos next week. We're going to be doing our regular Facebook Live broadcast. And then Cynthia and I are going to do what we call a creative explosion, our little after party. After lunch, after we have a little bit of lunch, we're going to come back on in the afternoon, and Cynthia's going to share some of her design tips and techniques. We're going to make another project live on air with no crazy direction at all. It's going to be really, really fun.
That's going to be
It's going to be really fun. So we're going to have our regular live broadcast at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, and then we'll have the after party, the creative explosion with Cynthia Thornton from Green Girl. So that's what's going on. I will see you guys on Friday for Free Tip Friday. I have a really fun project. We're going to be using our monthly mix, and it's a fun project that Ali Mori sent over, so it's going to be a really nice one.
Love her.
So you'll see the project up on Friday, and I will see you Friday for Free Tip Friday. Well, thank you. Thank you for so much for being here, and thank you guys for sticking with. Sometimes we have a few broadcast issues, but from the bottom of my heart, thank you for sticking with me. I really, really appreciate it because, as you know, I am our IT team. So thank you so much. I will see you guys on Friday, and Brittany will be back soon with
another fun
technique. All right. So we'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Talk to you. Brittany will be back soon with
another fun
technique. All right. So we'll see you guys soon.